Devin Haney responds to Eddie Hearn and indirectly to Boxing Ego. I'll explain. He says he is not motivated to fight based on money. So in this video, that is what I will break down for you good people. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing. Now, let me explain my intro. You guys take this for what you want. I made a video yesterday, and it was released very early in the morning, and it was about Eddie Hearn and what he said about Devin Haney. The reason why I believe that Devin Haney's seen this video, because after it was released, within an hour or two, Devin Haney put out this tweet that we're going to get into. Mind you, the content that I made was on my to-do list. The video is like that, the interview from Eddie Hearn, it only has like 5,000 views or whatnot, and it's from like 10 days ago. So it's an older interview, but I still wanted to make the video. So I was actually late in making the video, and coincidentally, right after I make a video, that's when we get a response. But the interview's been up where Eddie Hearn said this 10 days ago, which leads me to believe it was my content. Maybe someone sent it to him or whatever. But enough of that. Devin Haney responded. And in case you didn't see the video, you should really watch that Eddie Hearn video that I put out yesterday and then come back to this one because it's kind of like a part two. Basically, Eddie Hearn said, quote, "When Devin Haney first started, all he wanted to do was chase greatness. I don't think he's like that anymore. I think it made him fall out of love with the sport of boxing," meaning the Ryan Garcia fight, the politics, how the fans treated him. He says that pretty much made Devin Haney like feel resentment towards the sport of boxing. And now it's just about the bag. That's what Eddie Hearn is basically saying. He says, quote, "I think now a big part of Devin is just fighting for money. And that's when it becomes dangerous because you're not the same fighter." Bill and Devin Haney, they're not looking strategically. They are looking for the bag. That is it. So they're like, where can we make $5, $6, or $7 million? What fight? That's why they said we'll fight Boots at 147 or Teofimo, and now they're fighting Brian Norman. Well, because they just want the money. So they don't care now. Back in the day, Bill Haney was a lot more selective and tactical about who to fight. Now he just wants the money. So what makes this rather shocking is that Devin, when he first turned pro, he had those fights in Mexico. When he first signed with a promoter for a long-term arrangement, it was Eddie Hearn. Now Eddie Hearn is spilling the beans, if you will, saying that Devin and Bill are pretty much money hungry, and that is their current motivation. Devin Haney seen my video, seen Eddie Hearn's interview, whatever you believe, responded, "I don't fight for money. I fight for legacy. I want to be mentioned with the greats when it's over. 3-division champion, November 22nd. And that's his response. Mind you, Devin Haney is very similar to Terrence Crawford, not in style, skill, or ability, but something I've criticized Crawford for, I've noticed from Bill and Devin Haney. What is that? When certain people that have the complexion for the protection, right? When they criticize Devin Haney or Terrence Crawford in a very blunt, very direct way, it's almost like crickets. Either they won't respond to it, or when they do respond, their responses always seem to have kid gloves. For example, Devin Haney, he's responding indirectly to what Eddie Hearn said, because nobody else was saying that Devin Haney only fights for money except for his old promoter, Eddie Hearn. And then now he's clearly addressing that. He's not putting a name on it, and he's not putting Eddie Hearn. This is the man that said it. Like, this new generation is different and not in a good way. Like, for me, if I had an issue with somebody, I would put it on, especially at this level. This is your old promoter, right? This is business. He has no problem, Eddie Hearn, being on wax, mentioning your name and saying you and your dad are moving like this. You're all about the bag, blah, blah, blah. Eddie Hearn is very direct. He's unapologetic. He's literally live on camera. So he's putting a name to it. He's putting a name on the bullet. So you know the target. Versus Devin Haney, he's just like, I don't fight for money and I fight for legacy. So he's pretty much responding to it, and we know why he's responding, but he won't mention Eddie Hearn in a negative light. But when it be Tank or Richardson Hitchens or anybody he has a problem with, YouTubers, then he'll mention them by name and has no problem like laughing at Dillian White or Jaleel Hackett. Terrence Crawford does the same exact thing, where Crawford is beef with media members and YouTubers. He has no problem saying he'll break Gary Russell Jr.'s neck when Gary Russell put out interviews about him, etc. No problem at all. But then when you have a Jewish promoter, Bob Arum, who founded Top Rank, and he's like, Crawford can't sell. Crawford loses me money. I could have bought a house in Malibu with all the money that I keep losing on Crawford fights. You never hear Crawford really go off on Bob Arum. But remember when Crawford and Tank got into it on social media, and they're talking trash, and Crawford saying you're a woman beater, you know, all these types of things and all these types of jabs. But it's funny because when it's Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn and certain people, the complexion for the protection, I don't see Devin Haney, Bill Haney, or Terrence Crawford really dig their fingernails in like they do if it's a black fighter like Tank or Richardson Hitchens or Gary Russell or whoever they happen to have had issues with. It's a lot more aggressive and a lot more direct. So I'm really curious why Devin Haney didn't just address the elephant in the room, the man who put this out about you. Nonetheless, check out my first video. I said what I said. This is a bad look for Devin Haney entering such a dangerous fight. And your old promoter is like, yo, these two were more strategic and more on point when they first came out. Now they're just making money moves. Like, that's what they care about. And to be honest, I really kind of agree with Eddie Hearn. I've told you this before. I know people who know Devin Haney personally. I know Devin Haney and Bill Haney personally, but not going to say any names. I know people personally that said Devin Haney has changed. You know what I mean? He's big-headed and, you know, moves different and just different things like that. I'm not going to get into it because that would require name dropping. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Devin says something different. You know, bravo. He's saying he's still fighting for legacy. He's going to need it because the Brian Norman fight, to me, is definitely a dangerous one. I do give him props for taking the fight, but we'll see. We'll see, because we'll see how much legacy you are, because if you lose this fight, it's going to be harder to get them big paychecks. So you had got to win this.